Assessment by Ibrahim Qureshi. Assessment as, of, and for learning. Assessment for learning is more commonly known as formative and diagnostic assessments. Assessment for learning is the use of a task or an activity for the purpose of determining student progress during a unit or block of instruction. Teachers are now given the opportunity to adjust classroom instruction based upon the needs of students. Similarly, students are provided valuable feedback on their own learning. Assessment of learning is the use of a task or an activity to measure, record, and report on a student's level of achievement in regards to specific learning expectations. These are often known as summative assessments. Assessment as learning is the use of a task or an activity to allow students the opportunity to use assessment to further their own learning. Self and peer assessments allow students to reflect on their own learning and identify areas of strength and weakness. These tasks offer students the chance to set their own personal goals and advocate for their own learning. Diversity in education. Canada has a changing demographic, a population that is constantly on the rise. A census compiled by Statistics Canada indicates the increasing numbers of individuals immigrating in Canada every year. But what does that mean? Educators, administrators, and school boards need to accommodate for diverse learners. That includes different types of learners: English second language learners, English language learners, students that are high achievers, immigrant and refugee students, students with special needs or disabilities, and then students with learning disabilities as well. That also includes students from low socioeconomic backgrounds and the diverse race and ethnic populations. More effective forms of assessment and evaluation are needed to ensure learning is more engaging, beneficial, and meaningful for all students. But how do we assess? Historically, a heavy implication has been placed on grades. Students somehow determine their academic performance based on numeric or letter grades that somehow signify their performance inside the classroom of how they're meeting learning expectations. Students from an early age have commonly built this sociological realm where they honestly fear report cards. And honestly, I would too, because that's what we've been taught. We need to focus on learning and let the grades take care of themselves, shifting by providing more constructive forms of assessment and evaluation, deterring from the normative assignment of grades and numeric values. Typically, grades have the highest emphasis in the education system. Why do we need grades? To get into post-secondary education. Little emphasis given to learning, and God forbid we ever talk about feedback. Actually, what has to be done in actuality is reverse the whole process. Put more emphasis on feedback, then focus on learning, and after you effectively begin learning, then you can get into post-secondary education. And then maybe we can worry about grades. Or matter of fact, null and void the whole system. Let's look at our tools. Peer assessment, self-assessment. Peer assessment can be applied individually or in private. Peer assessment can be used in groups as well. The learners need instructions and guidance on how to evaluate. Thus, similar work/products can be evaluated before a real assessment is done so that students can practice evaluation. Students should be informed about the criteria and/or rubric. Peer assessment should be employed together with self and teacher-based evaluations. Peer assessment should not be used to allocate marks or given as a form of evaluation. It should only be used as assessment to provide constructive feedback. Students need to feel comfortable with students to provide constructive and meaningful feedback. Students assess their own knowledge and comprehension on learning materials, as well as assess their ability to compare tasks and reach personal learning goals. If students can reflect on learning, it means they are more likely to be engaged with learning. Students need to be informed about their criteria and explained on how to assess themselves. Explicit instruction should be provided when conducting any forms of assessment, providing random samples of questions to answer, and provide students a rubric, as it will assist students in identifying what they should be looking for when assessing. Rubrics can be co-constructed with both the teacher and the students. Quizzes, formative and diagnostic. Checkpoints for students and teachers. They serve as learning criterion to check how much information students actually understand and how well teachers are doing in relaying that information. No marks, just assess. Remember, quizzes should only be used for formative purposes, diagnostic purposes, and not to assign grades and allocate marks. It builds up to final assessments and can serve as a form of evaluation so students have a better understanding going into bigger assignments or tasks. Unit tests. They are summative in nature, however are only effective if prior formative assessment or quizzes are given to prepare students for such unit tests. A range of questions diverse in nature based on the diverse learners in the classroom will be more effective for more students, engaging a larger population of students in the classroom and being more fair, eliminating any sort of biases. Also, providing necessary accommodations or modifications for students that require them is an effective means of ensuring that all students have a fair chance of doing well in all academic tests. Purpose of such assessment? Roger and Karpik's studies show that testing has a powerful positive effect on long-term future retention. When quizzes are conducted at the beginning of each lesson, students can be aware of what they will learn, and also they gain motivation for instruction, so they are prepared for information being taught in the class. When quizzes conducted at the end of each lesson, effective feedback can be given to students for their performances, and they can revise what they learn. Feedback cards. Now, this allows students to fill in cards, pieces of paper stating how they feel about their learning environments. If you make students feel part of the learning classroom, it empowers them to take a proactive approach in their education. It helps the teacher understand what he or she is doing wrong, what information may be unclear, and how to improve on the current learning environment created for the students. Now, portfolios. Portfolios are purposeful, organized, systematic collections of student work that provide an outlook into student progress of learning, achievement, and completion of tasks or goals. Students can be flexible in using diverse ways of showcasing their learning and are not restricted by guidelines created by teachers. Portfolio assessment is a joint process of assessment for the teacher and student. Teachers can co-construct rubrics to ensure student input is used to make assessments and evaluation more effective. Portfolio assessment emphasizes the evaluation of student progress, processes, and performance. There are two basic types of portfolios: process portfolio, product portfolio. Process portfolio, most often formative in nature, however sometimes grades can be assigned to such assignments at the end of the year. It may also strictly be used for summative type assignments, however that is not the norm for such portfolios. Product portfolio is very summative in nature. It is intended for a major evaluation, and besides a written component is often accompanied by an oral presentation. For example, it may be used as an evaluation tool for graduation from a program or the purpose of seeking employment. Commonalities between process and product portfolio? In both types of portfolios, emphasis is placed on including a variety of tasks that elicit spontaneous as well as planned language performance for a variety of purposes and audiences, using rubrics to assess performance and demonstrating reflection about learning, including goal setting and self and peer assessment. So in conclusion, you have a diverse set of learners and you need to reach every single student in the classroom. The only way to do that is to include students. Include students in the process of constructing rubrics or forming assessments. It will ensure that more students will be engaged. Give out clear expectations and guidelines to ensure students know exactly what to do and how to do it, providing explicit instruction on each and every task. And you can eliminate the bias by including students in the classroom and accounting for the needs of diverse learners to ensure that every single student has a fair chance of doing well in all forms of assessment. And finally, providing feedback is the most important thing. Feedback, feedback, feedback. If students know how they're doing, they can improve on already built skills and can work on the skills areas of weaknesses to better their own learning environment. The end. Thanks for watching. And here's my references.